Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Travel. My name is Gary Arndt, coming to you once again from my mom's basement here in Wisconsin. About to set off again next week. No more basement shows. With me again are my usual host of suspects, Mr. Chris Christensen. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing very well, Gary.
And this is the July 5th we're recording this. So what did you do on the 4th of July?
We went down to one of the old neighborhoods near downtown San Jose and watched the official fireworks show and then all of the many, many other shows that were being done by people in the neighborhood. They were setting off, I'd have to say, thousands of dollars worth of professional-grade fireworks just 2 streets away from us and 1 street the other side and right down the street here and over here. And it felt like Beirut.
One nice thing being in Wisconsin is that we are a very fireworks-friendly state. So whenever you drive in or out of Wisconsin across the state border, especially Minnesota or Illinois, the first thing you see are fireworks stores, like right across the border. And I don't know how many people buy them, but clearly they do. Also with us, coming to us from Carlsbad, California, I'm pretty sure it is, Jen Leo. How are you doing, Jen?
Good morning, everybody. We had an epic 4th of July yesterday. Started with our neighborhood parade where everybody dresses up, gathers at the grandma's house. She's been doing this for 16 years. And then we all parade around 1 block, followed by a big birthday party and wrapped up at another corner house on the block where they had imported fireworks from Vegas. And it was really, really cool. It was like just little fountains and sparklers and...
Does everyone dress up as their favorite president, and did you get to be Millard Fillmore?
No. I was concerned about keeping Cora far enough away, although she was concerned about that herself. But it was really fun. I think I posted 1 video on Instagram. But it was really a non-stop 4th of July, and we never went anywhere and didn't have to deal with any traffic. So, muy bueno.
Excellent. And our guest this week, first time on the show, very, very excited to have her. She is the heiress to the Marlin Perkins crown at Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And I got to admit, when Jen sent an email, she just like, okay, Stephanie, here's what's on the show. I'm like, who's Stephanie? And she sent a link, like, Wild Kingdom. I'm like, that Wild Kingdom? The Wild Kingdom that I grew up watching?
So as did I.
Yeah, same one. Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, Stephanie Arne. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And
for those of you who did not grow up with Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, Gary and I couldn't remember whether it was Saturday night or Sunday night, but the whole family would gather around and watch these exotic locations. You know, the 2 hosts, Jim and Marlin would be safely up in the helicopter, and Jim would be down wrestling the alligator. And strangely enough, Jim, I understand, is still alive. So
yes, he just
never thought he would make it to old age, actually, from the way that show worked.
So we're going to have a lot to talk about with Stephanie later in the show. What did you do for your 4th of July?
Actually, I have a lot of friends and family here, and we spent the day at the beach, and then we came back home and we made some awesome food, and we're up on a hill so we can see a lot of the fireworks. And we had a great night. We had a bonfire and made s'mores and everything. It was so much fun. But I was in a similar position where I thought it was a war zone around our house. It was a bit freaky. But everybody got to sleep really well and in every single room, which is why I'm stuck in a garage.
So if you're listening to the show on audio, you should at least take the time to check it out on video. And the painting you have behind you is pretty awesome. It's one of the best backdrops we've ever had on the show.
You know,
it even beats Gary's 2001 pictures from when he was a kid. So
I think it might look like Gary from 2001.
Oh, wow. I would have liked to have known you then.
Well, Picasso did. That's why his photos look like they do. Let's go to a couple of news stories before we get into talking with Stephanie. This one has been in the news this week. I mean, this is weird because we've had such a hard time getting all of us together that there's normally like a gulf of a month between doing a show. We just did a show last week, so we don't have as much to talk about. But the government is talking about airline price collusion. probably wouldn't shock a lot of people, but the claim from the Justice Department is that basically the major airlines in the U.S., and there's only 4 of them now, so it's kind of an oligopoly by default, have been colluding to keep prices high. So my question to you guys is, 1, do you think it's true? And 2, are they going to be able to prove anything?
I think they've been keeping prices high. Whether they've been colluding, I think it's going to be really hard to prove. And I don't know whether they. It's a little. I haven't heard anything that sounded like a smoking gun just yet.
Jen?
I think it's possible, but what is that really going to mean to the consumer at the end of the day? And when I read the Mashable, I read a recent. It's been all over the news, but I read a recent Mashable article, and the line that stood out to me the most was, "A government investigation could take years." Also, our friend Chris McGinnis, he was quoted in the article, and here's what he said. Scrolling issues. Fixing in the 1990s, lawyers got $14.4 million, travelers got worthless air script, remember? So what does all this mean to the consumer?
Bupkis.
Probably.
Stephanie, how often do you get to travel?
I feel like I live in airports. I travel several times a month. Some months are pretty heavy. I'm only home for about maybe a total collective of 4 or 5 days, and then sometimes I'm off for like a month. But yeah, I live in airplanes, and sometimes it's with Mutual of Omaha, and sometimes it's for my own business, which I do public speaking and motivational speaking and stuff. So watching the trends and watching the prices go up and all of them be like that, if this is true, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be a little bit heartbroken. They're like part of my family. So I'm like, what? You've been doing this? You've been scheming against me? So I really hope it's not true.
Well, the one piece of evidence that would sort of indicate that there could be something going on, that they're trying to keep the prices high, is that if you think about the cost for the airline, one of the biggest costs obviously is fuel, and that drives a lot of the price changes. Well, fuel prices are decreasing, and yet airline prices are not following suit, and so that certainly makes you wonder. And basically, at that point, they're just maximizing profits, which is what companies do, but they're definitely constraining supply, is what it seems.
I think this is going to be very difficult to prove unless there's a smoke-filled room somewhere with airline executives hanging out, because prices tend to go to an equilibrium, and as they have decreased competition, it's less competitive. Prices are going to go up, and I think if the Justice Department is going to pursue this, they should kind of look in the mirror. I mean, they approved all these mergers, and this is kind of the natural result of it. I don't think it's that surprising. But it'll be interesting. I highly doubt if there's an investigation, to be honest. I would be shocked.
See, I think if you're the government, I think you at least say you're investigating, just so people look over their shoulder and maybe lower a few prices, just so it doesn't look suspicious, even if there isn't a conspiracy.
Another story from USA Today, their Road Warriors section. They had a list of the strangest hotel requests ever. And I'm quite shocked that some of them were even able to be fulfilled. The Fisher Island Club Hotel in Florida, a guest asked the executive chef to smoke a 7-foot alligator for a James Bond party. Why it needed to be smoked instead of grilled or fried, I don't know.
Oh, you've got to have it smoked, Gary, if you've never had it smoked. The tail I understand, is the best part, too.
Stephanie, as a naturalist, have you had alligator?
Actually, yeah, I have. I used to live in Australia, and it's crocodile, emu. Gosh, what's the other one?
Kangaroo.
Have you not had alligator, Gary?
What?
Yeah.
Have you not had alligator?
Oh, I've had alligator.
Okay.
There's a stand at the Minnesota State Fair every year that serves alligator. From farms in the south, and then they bring it up, and yeah, you can get alligator on a stick.
Tastes like chicken. Chewy chicken.
Always down to try things once, it was crazy to be in Australia and have them be completely comfortable with serving kangaroo. That's very odd, especially because we see them as such an exotic species. And they're like, and here is your very perfect kangaroo on the plate. And it's like, wait a second, this isn't right. But to them, it's just like cow. But yeah, alligator. I have tried it, and it's a very common thing down in the South, isn't it?
Yep.
I thought it was stranger was that I want when I get there a framed photo of David Hasselhoff.
I was just going to say that. I'm guessing, I do not know, I am guessing that the guest at this hotel
was David
German.
Hasselhoff.
No, it was German. Because the Germans love David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, the picture is priceless. The most practical one was, though, why call in sick to work when you can get somebody else to do it for you? Kimpton's Alexis Hotel had to call the guest boss one hungover morning.
This one was great. The W Hotel in Hollywood. A regular guest showed up without any clothes and gave the concierge $2,000
without a change of clothes.
Well, yeah, it didn't show up naked.
Okay.
To just go and buy clothes so they could go out for the evening. I'm not sure I would trust anybody to do that, but go for it. There's some other ones, but have you guys ever requested anything from a hotel?
Yes.
Not much. Like an extra cable or something like that.
Oh, no. Stephanie, what's the
Stephanie said
request?
yes.
Was it a picture of David Hasselhoff?
Yes, it was. I needed. Can you guys please give me David Hasselhoff? It was at a Motel 6.
Or Marlon Perkins?
So when you work in travel with animals, sometimes you have to stay in hotels. And yes, it is a very common thing for people of my kind to have to request special requests to allow us to bring in, a kookaburra and a 12-foot Colombian red-tailed boa and a tortoise and a ring-tailed lemur. I will not mention the hotel or the state or the location or anything of where I was at, but one day we knew we couldn't request it, and so it went ahead and happened. And it's very strange to wake up in a hotel room with a green iguana above your head, and you get up to go to the restroom, and you pass a huge not an Aldabra, but spur-thighed tortoise, and then you get into the restroom and you sit down and you look over to your right, and there's a 12-foot Colombian red-tailed boa, just steaming it in the tub. So yes, there are times we have to request it, and usually the hotels are extremely cool about it when they know who we are, but there are also times when it's late at night and you're exhausted and you need to bring the animals in on your way back to location, and it's always a strange sight to see all those guys hanging out in one hotel room.
Do you take pictures? Do you have an Instagram account?
I do have an Instagram account. Yes, I do. It's at Stephanie Arne. Yeah. And
okay, I want to see in the future pictures of animals in bathtubs and hotel lounges.
Yeah,
I guess you leave the "Don't make up this room" sign on the door.
Yes.
The boa in
gosh. Yes, and it's really strange when you are bringing these animals into a hotel room. You don't want to freak anybody out. I mean, even most of the time, like I said, we do get 100% approval, but you still don't want to freak out people you pass. You don't want to be the person, if you're afraid of tarantulas and snakes, that you're next door to them. So we walk by and we just act like it's a normal Wednesday. We're like, oh, it's just a Wednesday, but we're carrying those clear, huge Tupperware full of tarantulas, and people don't even look. If you make eye contact, it's part of the game. You're like, yeah, hi, oh, did you see the pool back there? And yes, there are times where we've had people call in and say, hey, I think that the neighbor next to us has a bird, and they'll call us and say, hey, do you have a bird in there? We're like, no, we're just listening,
No, the snake ate the bird.
Yeah. Or sometimes when I go to sleep, I like,
you do that really well. Almost
do
too
that again.
well.
Do that again. So what was that? What species?
It's a kookaburra when it's coming down. They have this high. I have now woken up all the kids that are staying in my house right now, but that's okay. I think they're used to Stephanie being the crazy one making gibbon and parrot noises and stuff. So
For those of you who just joined us, this is This Week in Birds. Well, why don't we just get started? Stephanie, you got what seems like a pretty cool job. What was your background, and how did you get into this? How did this all come about?
You know, I've been asked this question a bajillion times, and I've learned from listening to other people's experience, because I work a lot with people in zoos and rescues and out in conservation projects. There's really not a right way to get into this field. Everybody thinks that there's only a zookeeper or vet, and I thought that as well for the longest time. And then I learned that zoos had education departments, and that there are people that actually work out in Africa and are guides and teach people about that. And I was like, this is so rad. I want to do this. So I do have a biology background, but my degree is mostly focused on animal-human behavior and public speaking and education. So that's kind of where I started. I took my first internship at Omaha's Henry Doorly Zoo. I'm originally from the Midwest, so that was the closest and most awesome zoo. And wow, getting into this field, you really have to prove yourself. The things that I've had to do, I'd almost be too embarrassed to share with you guys, but there's a lot of really gross things that happen, as you know, with animals. A lot of poo, a lot of pee.
Fortunately, you said you'd be almost too embarrassed to share. So.
Okay, so I'll share 2 stories. At the time, we had a director of the zoo who loved to do animal photography, and so I was this, I'm a pretty enthusiastic, girl. I'm about 5'4", very happy, and I don't know if they were they wanted to crush the happiness out of me to make sure that I was tough enough to live in the animal world. So the director says, I need to get some photography of a cassowary. Are you guys familiar with a cassowary?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much a velociraptor.
They have warning signs in Australia, don't they?
Yes, they do. And so they're a beautiful bird. They're related to ostrich, emu, rhea, and they are humongous. Well, he was in there, and they're like, okay, intern was my name. Intern, go in there and hold up this big piece of plywood. And if the cassowary runs at the director, block him. What? Like, this thing can disembowel me. And they're like, well, can you handle it or not? I'm like, oh my God, these people are crazy. But what did I do? Sure, sounds awesome. Totally. So thankfully, it never happened. But that was my first, these people are serious. Next story would be, we had this spider monkey exhibit. And a lot of people think they want to have a monkey. You don't want to have a monkey. They're crazy. Okay, they are hyper, they go everywhere, they want to destroy everything, and they want to release pee and poo and everything all over to mark their territory. Well, at that point, I'd had a monkey pull out my hair, I'd seen their fangs. I was pretty intimidated by them, but they're like, you can do this, go out on Monkey Island. So I had this rowboat, and I'm canoeing and getting myself out there, 2 big buckets full of water, 2 big buckets full of fruit. It had been raining, so the island was a little bit muddy. At this time, there was a bridge of people, probably 100, 150 people watching me. As I go to take a step onto the island, I slip. The fruit bowl buckets fall all over the place. I look up, and it looked like the scene from Jurassic Park when that chick lifts up her head, and there's, a million dinosaurs coming at her. I had probably 50 spider monkeys and squirrel monkeys running at my face, like, ah! They were wanting to get the fruit. They grabbed the bucket. They're yanking it from my hand. They're pulling my hair. They're smacking my face and my butt. And I fell over. It was the most humiliating moment of my life up to that point. 150 people taking pictures of me, pointing and laughing. And I look back, and the keepers that had helped me just stared at me like, yep, we knew that was going to happen.
Now, you mentioned it was the most humiliating moment up to that point, which implies that there had been more humiliating moments after that point. Would you care to elaborate? No, Stephanie, this is podcasting gold. I mean, you're just tossing up these softballs.
Oh gosh, I've had several experiences of being humiliated and with animals. I've done shows when I'm in front of 500 people, and I have animals that will be determined to lick up inside of my nose, and I'll be talking, and I have a lemur trying to lick and eat the boogers out of my nose. That's always a bit crazy. But I did a VIP behind-the-scenes tour for a celebrity once. His name is Snoop Dogg. You may be familiar. I was taking him behind the scenes to hang out with a rhino and be able to see that, or not a rhino, a hippo. So we're opening up the mouth, we're checking out the teeth. I'm talking about their skin and how they're nocturnal, that they hang out in the water during the daytime because they don't want to get sunburnt and bugged by insects. I'm saying all these cool facts, looking all totally awesome, and I'm turning around telling him these things, and all of a sudden one of the kids that was with him lifts up his finger and is like, oh, and it was like slow motion. I turn around and the hippo starts pooping. Now, I don't know if you know this about hippos, but they mark their territory by shaking their tails very quickly so that the poop spreads everywhere. Everywhere. Now, when I say everywhere, I mean all over my body. I got like chunks, like pshoo, 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 pshoo. And I turn around, and I'm sitting here like, spitting it out of my mouth. And they all started laughing at me. And Snoop Dogg says, huh, look, it's Hippo Poop Girl. That is my new name to Snoop Dogg and his homies is Hippo Poop Girl. And embarrassingly enough, like 2 days later, and I shower when I need to, okay? But 2 days later, I still found hippo poop in my ear up here. So yeah, no shame.
I got a joke for you.
Okay.
Why does Snoop Dogg carry an umbrella?
Why?
Faux drizzle. Faux drizzle.
Faux drizzle. Faux hippo drizzle.
So why don't you explain a little bit about what your job entails? I think a lot of people are familiar with wildlife experts who've been on TV and such. I'm thinking like Jim Fowler, Joan Embry, who were always on the Tonight Show, and they bring out an animal and kind of tell people, and there was an educational aspect of what you're doing. Is that kind of in the vein of what you do?
Yeah. To me, education is key. So that's, as long as you raise awareness, it's fun to share facts about the animals, but my sneaky goal is always to get you to fall in love with them. And then if you fall in love with them, maybe you'll start sharing articles about them through your network, or talking about, hey, this animal's struggling right now because we're overusing plastics, or we're overfishing, or whatever it may be. And maybe people will contribute their money or time or voice to help save that animal, to understand that they're an important part of the Earth's total ecosystem. So that's always kind of my mission. And thankfully, I get to do that with Wild Kingdom. The main part of my job is filming. So we film all webisodes now, which is a big change. It was on TV from 63 to 86. So us going online is a bit different for a lot of people, but we're trying to, catch on. We're trying to be cool in the cool kids group and get on YouTube. And so we film a lot of these short webisodes that are under 6 minutes. And they're short and fun and shareable, educational, entertaining. The other part of my job is I'm flown around the U.S. to do live animal shows. Kind of like what I was talking about. Sometimes I have to drive with the animals, and other times we call upon our really good friends at like the Dallas Zoo or Wildlife Encounters, these groups and rescues that are around the U.S. that have rescued animals, and now they're ambassadors. They let me borrow those animals for a radio show, a TV appearance, or maybe we go to Mutual of Omaha and we get to meet some staff, or I get to go to the Boys and Girls Club and do a live presentation there. So it's a pretty awesome job. I'm really grateful.
I would suggest that since we've already heard your ability to do animal impressions for the radio show, you don't actually need to bring the animals. So you could save yourself a little trouble that way.
I've done it before, and some animals do know how, we've trained them to do their natural call on radio so people can hear it. But if not, I can be paid to do my animal noises, that's for sure.
If you could train a hippo to do what it did to you on cue, you could sell out stadiums. I think you'd have a bigger draw than the Rolling Stones or a Led Zeppelin reunion. Just saying.
Oh man, I would never be able to keep a boyfriend.
You could have Snoop Dogg as your opening act, and they'd be like, "Okay, everybody, here's Hippo Poop Girl."
You sound exactly the way you sounded. Oh, it was so humiliating. You know what's really funny with that story is I was working at SeaWorld a year later, and he was doing another VIP tour with a friend, and they were heading over to the dolphin show. And as they were walking in, I was at the entrance kind of getting ready to guide them into their spot. And when they turned around, I saw them, and I didn't know it was going to be them. I just knew it was celebrities. And when I saw them, I wanted to run away. I've never been more humiliated. That was the most humiliating part of that. He comes around the corner, and he does the same voice, Gary. Oh, it's Hippo Poop Girl. And I was like, no, you will not remember me for this. So
I usually am the one who gets to name the episode because I do the post-processing. I guarantee you we will not name the episode Hippo Poop Girl.
Thank you.
Did cross my mind.
Are you sure, Chris?
We'd have a lot more downloads if you did.
Well, Stephanie, I was just thinking of that. I was thinking of, trying to make a web series cool and viral and everything. I've watched the manatees and I've watched the leopard cubs. Both of them informative and cute and adorable, including yourself. But my question is, which of the web series that are on the site so far have been your favorite? And two, almost more importantly, how come there are no blooper reels? I think bloopers and sort of candid videos would really bring a ton of attention to what you're doing, especially if you're trying to educate children.
Jen, I completely agree with you. We did do bloopers in the past, and my life is a bloopers. They have probably more footage of bloopers than they do of what you've watched so far.
That could be a whole TV show, a real TV show, not just a web series.
Yeah, they're still quite educational because, I'm still being goofy and I'm still saying, educational things. I'm doing a fact, but, I'm talking to the animals. I talk to the animals a lot. I kind of look at them like just another being because they are to me. But sometimes that can be a bit anthropomorphic when you talk to them like a human, but I still enjoy it, and they'd be fun bloopers. So I think they just maybe Mutual of Omaha needs, more people coming out saying we do want to see more bloopers. They're experimenting. We're constantly learning. We're past our third season now of webisodes, and we do about 4 animals per season. And I think we're playing with the format, and we're playing with the facts and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we need to express more to them and say we need to get these bloopers back in, and people would really like them. I know I laugh at myself when I watch it. Thank God my line for being embarrassed is so high because they got some good stuff on me. So yes, how about I'll go ahead and approach that. And if you guys want to go some emails, or anybody listening wants to go to Wild Kingdom TV Facebook page and just drop them a line and let them know you'd love to see Stephanie in her natural element in a blooper reel.
Well, I'm also thinking Cora, my 6-year-old, has also watched different shows on Nickelodeon. Sometimes they're like obstacle courses, but the kids are being raced, and some of the stuff they have to do is watch videos and find out what happens next. I can totally see Wild Kingdom blooper videos on these challenges for these little kids. I don't know if I said that correctly, but basically there are kids shows that have funny videos embedded in the kids show as part of the structure of the show.
I see, yeah. Isn't that strange how times are changing? They do that. It's crazy.
They're fun though, because it's kind of like a guess what happens next, and then you can move on or win or something like that. So nobody would ever guess that the hippo pooped everywhere, right?
How viral that video would be, but
yes, that's huge.
Thank God. Like YouTube was around, but it wasn't common to like video and take pictures then. This was back in 2009, and people just weren't doing it as often. And so yeah, I mean that probably I would be a super famous YouTuber by now if that video got out. Can you imagine? People would always, everywhere I go, people would be like, make the face, and I'd be like, I'd be like a meme and everything. So yes, I agree. I think bloopers would be really awesome, and I don't think that it's just kids that would be entertained by it. My generation, my parents, everybody finds bloopers fun. It makes you relatable, and you can connect with the host in that way. when it's not so official. And so I agree, and I recommend everybody going to Wild Kingdom TV, first following them because that'll make them happy, and then writing to them that, yes, let's see some bloopers. And the answer to your first question would be manatees. I've always wanted to be in the water with such a majestic and gentle animal, and I have worked with whale sharks and manta rays and whales, but there's something really interesting about that manatee. They're so curious, and they're just so harmless. I don't know how, they're just vulnerable, and you want to hug them so much. And with their little arms, they look like they want to hug you too. You know, you're like, oh, I love you, manatee.
Now, you grew up too late. You're too young to have watched Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom when you were growing
that's
up.
lies. I saw the end. I was 5. It was great.
Was there something else that that influenced you into going into kind of the zoo, the animal business, Kratz Creatures or something when you were a kid?
So I'm 32, so I started most of my animal shows. I grew up watching Jeff Corwin and Steve Irwin, and when I was much younger, I did catch the tail end of Wild Kingdom and Marty Stauffer's show as well. But I turned to my dad when I was like 5, and I was watching some show of a guy wrestling an alligator. I'm like, I'm going to do that. And my dad was like, no, you're not going to wrestle a crocodile, you crazy little girl. But they knew at a really young age that that's what I love to do. I was always outside making forts and capturing turtles and frogs and talking to squirrels. And, they did for a while think I was borderline crazy. But you know what? They saw that maybe I was just more like Snow White. And so that's kind of where the passion started. And so I always knew I wanted to teach people about animals. My friends were playing with Barbies, and I would be holding T-Rexes and be like, rah, my T-Rex is, this is during the Pleistocene or whatever. Which is not true, dinosaurs are not in the Pleistocene, so don't call me out on that. But I used to be educational like that as a kid. And I would say watching Steve Irwin and Jeff Corwin were really huge for me. I watched them instead of watching Real World and Road World Challenge in college. And there was something about Steve Irwin that really spoke to me. I think he spoke to a lot of people. He was so passionate, and I think you look at him and you're like, I would give anything to love and care about something that much, to just be like, look at this crocodile, we're going to go on it. Isn't she beautiful? And you're like, yeah, why? That's weird, but yes, I want to love that crocodile. And I just always really admired that, and I kind of saw myself in him, and so I just continually pursued it against all odds.
Seeing this is a travel show, technically, where have you been able to go in your job as a naturalist? You said you spent several months in Australia. Did you make it to Kakadu while you were there?
No, I didn't.
I
know. Why did you bring it up? Now I'm gonna make me cry.
I did research, and I knew that, and I did it because crying is for good,
good ratings.
Very good ratings, yeah.
Hippo poop and tears. That's the winner. That's the 1-2 combination you go for.
That's your show title, Chris.
So I spent 2 years working all over Australasia. So I worked on the Great Barrier Reef, and then I went over to Exmouth, Western Australia, and I spent some time working with whale sharks, mannas, humpback whales.
I did the whale sharks there. And
no way, really?
I did, yes. I did the pier dive there too.
Oh my God, the pier dive is unbelievable. Did you get to lick a sand tiger shark? I mean, hang out and swim with?
They had a big sea snake, and I've done a lot of diving around the world, and they had this snake that was highly venomous.
Yep.
And the guy who we were diving with, who was the dive master, was like stroking it. And I'm like, I'm not afraid of the sharks, but I am afraid of the highly venomous sea snake. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch the snake. But it was quite large. And so that's Exmouth is probably one of the more expensive places to see whale sharks in the world. But yeah, along the Ningaloo Reef there, we went out, and it's also one of the best to the extent that they have like spotter planes, or at least the company I went out with did.
Yep.
They look for the sharks, you go over it, you jump in the water, you swim like hell for 5 minutes, and then they're gone.
Guess what, Gary? I was the person that was on that boat with you, and I was the one that jumped out into the open ocean by myself so that I could wave to the boat and say, I have a whale shark. It's not a tiger shark. Come on in.
What year were you there?
I was there 2010, 11, and 12.
Oh, I was there 2008.
Yeah, so I did that same thing, and while you're swimming with them, so guests get to come out and swim with these whale sharks, and you're about 3 meters away from them. It's an epic experience. It's always fun to watch people because when you have like a 7 to 15 meter whale shark come at you, and they have a mouth that's like a meter wide, you can't help but either freeze or pee yourself. Like, it's a bit overwhelming. I don't know. Gary, more than likely you peed yourself, right? Please do that because we've said a lot of embarrassing things about me.
Every time I'm in the ocean, I pee. Nobody knows. And for those who don't know, the whale shark is the world's largest fish. And it's a filter feeder, so it's not like a great white shark. They're not...
Great big mouth, really tiny throat.
The biggest danger, I guess, would be getting whacked by its fin or something like that.
Yes, and that does hurt. Because what happened for me one time is when you're swimming with them and you're having this great experience, the spotters, we have to be measuring them under the water. We're looking at patterns. We have a photographer that's usually with us, or videographer, and there's a spot right behind the eye and before the gill slits that we take a picture of, and we send that in to be coded. And we use the same kind of thing like NASA does for constellations, but with the spots. And so you look at the different spot patterns, and that tells us the ID of the whale shark. And so what happens is I say, hey, look, I dive down and I look to see if it's a male or female. I measure how big it is. I look at the spot pattern, and I come up and I tell the other staff, and we record it all, and it goes into this huge database, which is pretty cool to know that you're a part of this ongoing experiment, or research experiment of learning, like, what do these animals do? What do they need? How far do they dive? When do they come up? How do they mate? There's a lot of stuff we still don't know about them.
Want to hear something neat about whale sharks?
What?
So last year, do you know where St. Helena is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so St. Helena is a small island. It's 1,500 miles off the west coast of Africa. It took me a 5-day boat ride to get there. And so I'm talking to the people in St. Helena, and I guess some whale sharks are there in the spring. And they went to a whale shark conference, I guess, last year or the year before in Atlanta, and they were giving a presentation, and it's like, oh, yeah, and here's a photo of 32 whale sharks. And everybody, I guess, just dropped their jaw, and they didn't know it was a big deal. It was the largest concentration of whale sharks ever recorded, and they had absolutely no idea that this was a thing.
That's insane to me. I have swam with 4 or 5 at a time, and to me, I bragged for a long time that had never happened before. Oh, so young. I did not know. I came to other people, they're like, no, I've seen 15. 32 is a crazy amount. And they congregate together usually if there is an upwelling, or if there is coral spawning, which is what happens, why they come to Mingley Reef, is there's a huge, massive coral spawn, and that's why they come around and they just, swallowing all of this coral spawn.
Did you get down to Shark Bay while you were there?
I did, yeah. That's the first time I ever dove with a dugong, actually.
I was going to say, if you love manatees, then you'd probably love dugongs.
Which was so large. I thought it was a baby humpback whale from far away. I used up all of my air trying to catch up with it because it was so fast. And then when I finally got there, I was like, oh, it's not a whale, but it's a dugong. Oh, my gosh.
I don't know if you saw them while you were there. I used to study, before I started traveling, I studied geology, and I became very fascinated with stromatolites, which are actually, as far as we know, the oldest living stuff that we found evidence of on Earth. They're bacterial mats, not very sexy, but they're still alive, and you can see stromatolites in Shark Bay in Western Australia. And it's basically, it looks like a rock, because it pretty much is, but it's a living rock. And I was so excited from the stromatolites, like bacterial bats.
I was that girl too. I was like running down that dock, to get to the end and be like, look at everybody! Oh my gosh! And they were like, what? It's alive! It's alive! And they're like, that's lame. So I would have been geeking out with you too. We would have been like, everybody, let's talk about them. And yeah. After I left that area, I went up to, I've been to Borneo, Malaysia. In Malaysia, I went and spent some time in Borneo, Malaysia with orangutans and proboscis monkeys. And then I popped up to the Philippines to do some sea turtle work, then popped over on back to the Great Barrier Reef, jumped on a sailboat that wanted me to do coral reef checks in Papua New Guinea. That was probably the coolest moment. Like, I love Papua New Guinea.
Where in Papua New Guinea were you?
We went. We went from Cairns, Queensland. We went up through the Coral Sea, and then we just went around a bunch of the little islands, and then we went all the way up to Madang.
Okay, so I was in Kimby Bay. It was on New Britain.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And yeah, they claim that Kimby Bay is the highest concentration of coral diversity in the world. No idea if it's true, but
I would agree. The coral reef in Papua New Guinea is some of the last untouched coral. You know, there's not tours going out every single day. There's not fishing boats that are dragging stuff around in some of the areas there. So a lot of the coral was some of the healthiest I'd ever seen. I did a lot of coral and fish counts, and the populations were very healthy. I was blown away. It was beautiful.
And I also have to ask, seeing you were on Borneo, did you make it to Mulu National Park?
No, not Mulu. I can't remember the actual park that I went to.
Mulu is in Sarawak.
I was in Sarawak.
Yeah, it has big caves, really big caves.
Yes, with the bats.
Yes!
And
there's a bat viewing area. Yeah.
Yes. Did you see the crazy insects that looked like they had long legs? It looked like something that you saw in Men in Black.
You had to fly there, or you had to take a boat? Yeah. That's Mulu. One of the best national parks I've been to in the world. Nobody knows about it.
I know.
Great place.
I know. I had a great time there. It was at that island. I think the thing that made me the most sad about Borneo was just seeing how much destruction's happened because of palm oil. You know, I've been teaching about it for years in zoos, but to actually see just how much of the rainforest has been slashed and burned and turned into these palm oil trees that, I was shocked. Were you?
I was, but we could talk about this for a very long time, and thankfully I have my own podcast where you're going to be a guest on it, so we can talk about this. We can keep going, but I think we're going to have to kind of get moving on this show. So unless you guys have anything else you want to ask Stephanie, why don't we move on to our picks?
Can you tell us, Stephanie, either what countries you're going to for the rest of the year, or which animals we might be seeing as a teaser up on the future web series of Wild Kingdom? Are you allowed to say anything like that? Like what's coming next?
I just got approval to start searching for the next stories, for the next animals. So I can tell you the ones that I'm looking into, but it's not just my choice, it's the production team and Mutual of Omaha, of course. But I can tell you that I definitely am going to do everything I can to do an episode on sharks. I'm very passionate about sharks, and they're just so misunderstood. I've swam with thousands of them, and I have all of my body parts, which is awesome. So being able to educate people about sharks is cool, and I think I would like to do that either here, maybe the leopard sharks, six gills, blue, mako, here in San Diego, or I want to try to get over the Bahamas, like with the famous shark whisperer, Christina Zanato. She works with reef sharks right in Grand Bahama, and there's also great hammerheads over there. So I'd really love to hear everybody's input. If you want to go to my Facebook or Instagram, and I'm at Stephanie Arne, you can let me know what shark species that you would really love to watch. And also, I'm really hoping to do something on bears or wolves. I think that would be really cool.
If you got the money in your budget, go to Palau for sharks.
Yeah, Palau's
There's so much you can do. And then for bears, you might want to think of going up to British Columbia, just outside of Prince Rupert, where the spirit bears are.
Okay. Oh,
That's
I know.
always a huge draw.
I've never seen a spirit bear. Oh, that would be so great. Yeah, so I'll add those to the list. That's for sure.
All right, now let's go into our picks of the week.
Me.
The chair recognizes Jen Leo.
Thank you, Gary. So, since we were talking to Stephanie from Wild Kingdom and even talking about sharks and going on and on about Gary and his shark experiences, I want to recommend Cora's favorite app, and it is the Global Shark Tracker. And it also has a website, I just realized, osearch.org, OCEARCH.org. And what Cora loves about this app, so I can speak for herself, is that there is a map of the world with dots pinpointing where sharks have been tracked, where their latest pings are. They've got photos of the sharks. Right now I am looking at a, oh yes, Cora is telling me don't forget to tell them about the videos. There's also shark videos where applicable. But right now I'm looking at a tiger shark, female tiger shark, 12 feet, over 12 feet in length, 1,200 pounds, and the tag date was May 18th in South Carolina. I was looking around Charleston. But you can see sharks on here where their latest ping was yesterday. And then you click on it again, at least in the app, and it shows you where they have where they've been swimming. And it's just really fascinating. Not just for a 6-year-old, but also for me. And the videos, Cora loves watching the videos where the scientists are talking about the shark and everything. And so, Global Shark Tracker app.
I give my 2 thumbs up for that. I love that app as well.
I'm
You're
looking
gonna
at
love
it.
Cora, Stephanie.
It's not showing any sharks around where I live in Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin.
So I don't know
Maybe
about
any of
There
the
are
freshwater whales there, Gary?
It's called a muskie. Chris, you got a pick for us this week.
Well, I was thinking about what my son liked watching with sharks when he was 6, but that was street sharks, so I think we'll skip that. The 2 things that I had that are related to, since we're doing wildlife, one is one of the most interesting zoos I have been to in a while, which I saw last summer outside in western Sweden, and that's Norden's Ark. It's all endangered wildlife, and they have some of the most interesting habitats. So the tigers, for instance, have this huge granite rock mountain that they live on, and just some of the best photography for me of tigers and I'm trying to think of snow leopards and things like that. Fascinating place. But then the other one is actually we're planning. So we just did the uncruise, which we talked about, which was the wildlife small boat excursion cruise up in southeastern Alaska, and thoroughly enjoyed it. But my wife put down a deposit because she wants to do the Sea of Cortez, same boat in January timeframe, and go down there when the humpback whales are calving. And
Yes.
so we are actually planning on doing that probably next January. So if people want to join me, just let me know.
Ooh,
If I am
maybe,
not
Chris.
filming, I would
I'm
love
not paying for you, but just
Mm.
want to clarify that. But
Stephanie, what's your pick for us?
There's so many awesome places. Please let me have 3 quick ones.
Go for it.
First of all, I really believe that traveling is an important way for us to expand our minds and become more compassionate about other living things on this planet. So for a lot of people think that like I'm wealthy and that I could have, doing all these things. No, I worked 2 jobs most of the time, sold everything I owned, and I found creative ways to get around. And one of them is couchsurfing.org. That's a great opportunity for you to go out and travel the world and stay on legit people's couches. And they're cross-checked and everything. But I met the most amazing locals all over the world because of that. And I saved money, and being able to be there gave me the opportunity to say, look, I have an address. Will you please hire me to do these awesome conservation jobs? Secondly, I work with zoos all over the U.S. They're all really great if they're accredited. The zoo I really love that's kind of a gem is Tanganyika Wildlife Park, and this is for people in the Midwest. This is in Kansas. It has an amazing breeding facility for endangered species, and they're highly interactive. You can interact with lemurs and rhinos, and all of this is done in the most safest way possible for both animals and people. And so I always recommend that for people in the Midwest to get there. And then, if you also love traveling, please type in epi.org, Ecological Project International. This is a nonprofit group that lets you do conservation and wildlife programs down in Central America, and they're the cheapest, but the just absolute quality though, and that will help get some stuff underneath your belt so that if you are applying for jobs or conservation projects in the future, that is a great experience to have under your belt.
Excellent. I got 2 picks this week, the first of which is for everybody to remember the Alamo. And I say this because 4 hours ago, at the moment we are recording this on July 5th, the Alamo and the related Spanish missions in San Antonio, Texas, was just named America's newest UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Oh.
I'll be visiting in a little over a week. I'm going to a conference in Austin, then I'm going to get in a car. I'm going to drive down to San Antonio because I've never been to the Alamo before.
You're going to DMAI?
Yes.
Oh, I'll be there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we can have a party.
We do a live show.
And my second pick, and this is just for you, Stephanie. In the words of Chairman Mao, quantity has a quality all its own. And if you want to see the largest collection of animals, just a crap load of animals in one spot, the best place in the world is South Georgia Island, where you can get off a Zodiac and see 150,000 penguins all sitting as far as the eye can see. It's just penguin, 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 and it smells disgusting, and it's loud, and it is one of the most incredible experiences you'll ever have in your life. And I think it was Jane Goodall who said that the three, just in terms of quantity, that South Georgia, a caribou migration in Alaska, and maybe the migration in the Serengeti or Ngorongoro are the three things in the world where you'll just see just the biggest quantity of animals. And I've only been to South Georgia, so that's the one thing I can certainly attest to. But
I will speak for Ngorongoro. That was amazing.
So, yeah, if you ever get the opportunity, South Georgia Island.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a big one.
I've traveled a lot, as you may tell. Before we wrap, all right, anything else before we wrap up?
Can I drop Wild Kingdom again?
Oh,
yes, please.
We'll definitely, yeah. Why don't we start with you? Just tell us where people can find you online.
Okay, so if you go to YouTube, it's Wild Kingdom TV. If you go to their website, then you can find all the social media there. So that's wildkingdom.com. And we have 3 seasons in there, and we also have fun clips. But also for those of you who grew up watching Wild Kingdom, we have Marlon Perkins, Jim Fowler, Stan Brock, Peter Gross. We have years worth of episodes on the YouTube channel and the website that you can watch and reminisce and have a couple giggles at. And then if you would like to follow me on my journey, I'm on all social media outlets as well, and all of them are at Stephanie Arne with a PH and ARNE. Thank you for watching and sharing.
Excellent. Chris, what's doing the Amateur Traveler this week?
We just did the show on the uncruise that I talked about, the cruise without dressing for dinner and no bingo, but lots of wildlife kayaking and bushwhacking in southeastern Alaska. So the same boat that we're talking about doing in Baja. So that just went up as the 10th anniversary show of the Amateur Traveler. Not as long as Omaha, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, but so far we haven't taken a break. So, there is that.
Jen, where can people find you online?
You can find me on the LA Times travel website. My WebBuzz column today is one that I definitely want to point out, and you guys, especially those... What?
Cora.
Oh. Oh, Cora's making fun of me. I thought you guys were making fun of me at pimping and my WebBuzz column.
No, we weren't paying any attention to it.
Okay, so for those on iTunes, Cora is behind me using hand signals, doing the wonk, 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 wonk as I'm talking. But anyway, LA Times travel website. There's a particularly good site on there today called California Through My Lens. And even if you live in California, this guy Josh is just taking you to places and introducing you to places in California that you might never have heard of before. And so this was a really good one. And yeah, and always on Twitter at Jen Leo and on Instagram at Vegas Jen Leo. Cora, you can stop now.
Excellent. As usual, you can find me at everything-everywhere.com and all related social media sites. And if you're around, this week I'm going to be flying down to Miami and the Florida Keys. After that, I'll be in Texas, in Austin and San Antonio. And then after that, I will be in San Diego.
What?
Yes.
Hey, let's do a live show.
We can do that.
Gary, Stephanie lives here.
I live here. Yeah.
I think I'm arriving on the 18th. So, yeah, I'll have like a couple days before I got to start reshooting stuff for my travel video course, or my travel photography video course. So.
What brings you to San Diego?
I just said I'm shooting the last stuff for my training course I'm doing.
Yeah, but I don't get why that's in San Diego.
Because that's where my camera guy is, who's just doing all the video.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All right, then. Until next time, make sure to get outside and check out Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
thank you guys.